Hello, everybody. Today's workshop is about the applications derived from satellite-enabled IoT, Internet of Things. There is something not very accurate about the way it's called because Internet of Things is about connecting objects, things, via the internet. But the moment satellites get into play, we start looking at applications that have to do with places where there's no internet. So is it still Internet of Things? It's more like machine-to-machine communications. That's the broader way to look at it, because machine-to-machine communication has to do with one object to which you attach a machine that will help that object communicate with another one that also has some form of quote-unquote machine. The machine being something that can collect some parameters from an object and transmit it to some other object via a medium. Internet of Things is machine-to-machine communication via the internet. And when you add satellites to the loop, IoT remains a buzzword because that's something that people know about, can relate to. You have TinyGS kits. You have assembled them, probably already receiving packets. And I start this workshop on the TinyGS website because I want to draw your attention to a few things. You have the stations, the different stations, which is what you call your different ground stations. You can find them on this list. You go to the website on the menu, stations. If you type your station name, you'll find it. You have the satellites and you have the packets. Packets, basically, this is the information that is received, and you can decode it according to whether or not you have the codes from the operators. The point, why am I starting here? Because it's what you have, and you need to understand the power of what you have in your hands. Connecting objects beyond the reach of terrestrial networks can save lives. You have a ground station, you can receive data, which means that if one of these satellites, and when you look at the satellites, you can use different filters on status or frequency. If we go on frequency, 433 is where the TinyGS kit is. So looking at satellites that are going to transmit at those LoRa frequencies, some are active, some are inactive, some will be launched in the future. We have most of them are inactive, as you can see. Some, like I said, are programmed for the future. Just take a look. The point is, as it stands right now, these are the satellites, at least for the active ones. Let me put a filter on the active status that would be supported. There you go. So we're looking at what is supported, which works at our frequency. Then the list becomes a bit shorter. This means that if one of these satellites is involved in emergency response and has some sensors on the ground transmitting data to them about emergency, this means that you, with your station, are now part of a network of people who can assist in case of emergency. If you receive a packet about the SOS somewhere, you can do something about it. I'm not saying it is the case. I'm just taking an example. Why am I taking this example? Because this is real. Any one of them, any one of the mission operators at any time could decide that they want their mission to have this sort of an aspect and call out on the community to help. This is real. It can happen. And you are in a position to actually help. This is the power of what you're holding in your hands. I want to take another example, but this is not LoRa. Recently, Djibouti launched its first ever satellite. It's a 1U CubeSat. So it's not a Pico satellite like this one. It's a 1U CubeSat, but the principle remains the same. The utility of this mission is so vital that because of this 1U CubeSat, lives are saved. Lives are saved. What do I mean? In Djibouti, there are places where the the places are so dry that for a message to leave from those areas to get to the government for them to do anything about it, someone literally has to travel. By the time they get to where the message can be transmitted, when the government comes back with helicopters with the tanks of water, people are already dead. So one of the things this mission will do is going to put sensors on the ground to be able to send early warning about the levels of water so that they can bring in water early enough. This is just one of many examples where this is going to be of impact. You can apply the same principle for things like precision agriculture, for things like monitoring of sensitive area. So you're measuring seismic data and transmitting it over satellite. There are quite a number of such applications, but you need to, the important part is for you to consider how much you can do with this little kit of yours. You really need to understand how powerful this can be. I want to draw your attention to this website. It's called SatNogs. You'll have the link. Let me go back to home. When you open SatNogs, there are so many satellites. This website will give you information on any satellite that is in orbit and how it's doing. You know, is it operational? Is anyone receiving any useful data from it, and so on and so forth. You can enter any satellite here. Let's see, Norby 2, Norby, and search. You have Norby and Norby 2. Here they are. All right. Here they are. These satellites are part of the TinyGS community. And if you click on any of them, you get to have the status. This one, satellite is in orbit and operational. Fantastic. Now, let's have a look at the network observations. This generally redirects you to one and or two sites. One has to do with information from satellite. The other has to do with transmissions. Let's see. Where does this take us? Observations. Okay. This is where you take a look, and there's a bit of a legend here. Future. So these are some future passes that are anticipated. These are, this is the 1st of December. This is something that is expected. This is today, but a bit later. You have bad, you have unknown, good, and failed. So we're looking for the green lights, right? For example, this. I won't get into what is a, you know, this waterfall picture you're looking at, but I just wanted you to know that there is this website where you can find just about any satellite that is in orbit and know whether it is operational or not and know how it's doing. You can go and look for any of these operational satellites from the TinyGS community on there. Right here, if you click on it, you also get quite some information about it. And if you log in, you will have a sense of when next you, from where you are, will see this satellite. And here also you get a sense of which stations, how many stations received the signals it was transmitting, and so on and so forth. All right. So this gets you to look at this website differently. That's one. In a more of a real sense, will you have today this the ability to decode all these messages? Are these satellites configured within the context of an emergency response mission? I doubt it. But for the same frequency, with the LoRa modulation, you have in your hands something capable of picking up such a signal, and that is powerful, because anybody could launch a satellite and decide that they want to use it for emergency response, as long as there is something transmitting data of importance, of emergency importance, from the ground, from different places. Other people use other constellations of satellites today commercially. We're not going to go there. But these work also with LoRa at different frequencies. Definitely not part of the TinyGS community, but the principle is the same. Can I have satellites in orbit that can collect data from anywhere, whether there's connectivity or not, and send it to me so that I can do something about it urgently? The answer is yes, and you have in your possession one of such ground stations. So it would be a great idea to set it up so that it's always running. You might do it from as a hobbyist, but the day may come where it's actually it's part of a life-saving network, right? So this is a little bit what I wanted to share with you today concerning the applications around having satellite-enabled IoT. I'm going to stop here for now, because with this new format of workshops, you're going to have a quiz, and we're going to be meeting for Q&A and discuss some of these subjects.